The golden age of Hollywood was filled with glamour, flashing lights,
a wider screen, and the voice and
to the world, they had it all. Adoration of millions. But behind the silver screen, some of these legends faced a far darker reality. Addiction, financial ruin, failed marriages, and health struggles dragged once beloved stars from mansions to the streets. In this video, we'll uncover the heartbreaking stories of 7 Hollywood legends who ended up homeless. These are tales that remind us that success can vanish and that even the brightest stars can fade into the shadows. Before we begin, tell us in the comments, which Golden Age star shocked you the most with their tragic downfall? Number 7. Barbara Payton. Barbara Payton was once hailed as one of the most beautiful women in Hollywood. With her breakout role in Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye opposite James Cagney, she looked destined for stardom. Her striking looks and natural charm gave her everything she needed to become one of the biggest actresses of the 1950s. But success never lasted. Her personal life was filled with scandals, stormy relationships, heavy drinking, and substance abuse. A highly publicized love triangle with actors Tom Neal and Franchot Tone made headlines for months and tarnished her reputation in Hollywood. Producers stopped calling. Roles disappeared. By the late 1950s, she had burned through her money and was blacklisted from serious acting jobs. To survive, Barbara turned to prostitution on the streets of Los Angeles. She spent her final years in and out of jail, struggling with alcoholism. On May 8, 1967, at only 39 years old, Barbara Payton died of heart and liver failure in her parents' modest home. From red carpets to sidewalks, her story remains one of the most tragic declines in Hollywood history. Number 6. Marie Prevost. Marie Prevost was a bright star of the silent film era. In the 1920s, she appeared in dozens of films and worked with some of the industry's greatest directors. Her comedic timing and charisma made her a beloved figure. But with the arrival of sound films, her career collapsed. Like many silent-era stars, her voice and acting style didn't translate well to the new medium. Roles dried up quickly. As she faced rejection, depression took hold. She began drinking heavily and lived a life of increasing isolation. By the mid-1930s, she was broke and renting a small, shabby Los Angeles apartment. She had no close family nearby and very few friends left in the industry. On January 21, 1937, Marie died alone at the age of 38, her body discovered days later. She had no savings, no home of her own, and was buried with little recognition. Once a celebrated beauty of the silent screen, Marie Prevost faded into poverty and loneliness. Number 5. Bela Lugosi. Bela Lugosi will forever be remembered as Count Dracula, a role he made iconic in 1931. His haunting performance defined horror cinema and made him an international star. But success came with a curse. Lugosi became typecast. Hollywood could not see him as anything but a monster. While others found steady work in varied roles, Lugosi's career was trapped. As roles dwindled, so did his income. Chronic back pain from his service in World War I led him to morphine, beginning a lifelong struggle with addiction. By the 1950s, Lugosi was living in near poverty. He took roles in low-budget films, not out of passion, but to keep food on the table. In 1955, at the age of 72, he publicly admitted his addiction and checked into rehab, a rare and courageous act for the time. Sadly, his finances never recovered. When he died in 1956, Lugosi left behind less than $2,000 in cash. Friends, including Frank Sinatra, helped cover the costs of his funeral. The man who terrified millions spent his last years almost forgotten, battling addiction and financial despair. Number 4. Veronica Lake. Veronica Lake was one of the most recognizable stars of the 1940s. Known for her trademark peekaboo hairstyle and her roles in films like This Gun for Hire and Sullivan's Travels, she embodied the glamour of the golden age. Yet her personal life was anything but glamorous. Veronica's struggles with alcoholism, failed marriages, and disputes with studios damaged her reputation. She earned millions in her prime, but poor financial management and bad luck left her bankrupt by her early 30s. In the 1960s, reports surfaced of Lake working as a cocktail waitress and hotel worker in New York City, living in cheap apartments and at times without a permanent home. Journalists who interviewed her noted how far she had fallen from the Hollywood spotlight. When she died in 1973 at just 50 years old, she left behind few possessions and very little money. Veronica Lake's tragic fall from stardom shows how quickly fame can fade and how brutal Hollywood could be to its brightest stars. Number 3. Sammy Davis Jr. Sammy Davis Jr. was one of the greatest entertainers of the 20th century, a man who could sing, dance, act, and light up any stage. A member of the legendary Rat Pack, he shared the spotlight with Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, performing in sold-out theaters across the world. At his peak, Sammy earned millions, but with great success came great spending. He had a taste for luxury cars, expensive jewelry, and high-stakes gambling. By the late 1980s, the IRS claimed he owed more than $7 million in taxes. Even as his health declined with throat cancer, Sammy continued to perform, hoping to pay down his enormous debts. His determination was admirable, but the money never caught up with the bills. When he passed away in 1990 at the age of 64, his estate was still $5 million in debt. Sammy Davis Jr., who once dazzled the world with his talent, left behind a legacy of music and laughter, but also a stark reminder of how financial ruin can strike even the most gifted stars. Number 2. John Garfield. John Garfield was a trailblazer. In the 1930s and 40s, he starred in acclaimed films like Body and Soul and The Postman Always Rings Twice, earning a reputation as one of the most intense actors of his generation. But the 1950s brought a dark chapter in American history, the Red Scare. Garfield was accused of communist sympathies, despite denying any involvement. When he refused to name names during investigations, Hollywood shut its doors on him. Once a box office draw, Garfield was suddenly blacklisted. Work disappeared overnight. Legal costs and constant stress wore him down. Friends described him as deeply depressed and financially broken, living far from the glamour of his Hollywood years. On May 21, 1952, at only 39 years old, John Garfield died of a heart attack in a small New York apartment. His career had ended not because of talent, but because of politics, leaving him isolated and with little to his name. Number 1, Judy Garland. Few stars were as beloved as Judy Garland. From her timeless role as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz to her powerful singing voice, she seemed destined for greatness from childhood. Over her career, she earned millions, more than $40 million in total. But her life behind the scenes was marked by exploitation, addiction, and financial mismanagement. Studio executives pushed her into extreme diets and drug use from a young age, beginning struggles that lasted her entire life. Her third husband, Sid Luft, mismanaged much of her money, and years of back taxes left her owing the IRS millions. By the 1960s, Judy Garland was reduced to performing in small clubs and hotels, often just to cover her bills. At times, she struggled to find housing, borrowing money from friends, and living in temporary residences. When she died in London on June 22, 1969, at just 47 years old, her estate was worth only about $40,000, while debts of around $4 million remained. Her voice and talent touched millions, yet she spent her last years exhausted and financially broken. And there you have it, 7 Hollywood legends who ended up homeless or in devastating poverty. Their stories remind us of the darker side of fame. For every bright premiere and glittering award, there are struggles we rarely see. Struggles that can strip away fortune, health, and even dignity. Which of these stories shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you'd like to hear more untold stories from Hollywood's past, don't forget to subscribe for our next video.